Representatives Blanton and Nemus, as you're coming to the table, I will tell the committee that there is a committee substitute in this. It's in your folder, and it was emailed to you last night. Do I have a motion on the committee sub? So moved. We have a motion by Representative Fisher. Is there a second? Second by Representative Mosier. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? There's none. With that, gentlemen, when you're ready, you may identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Blanton, representative from the 92nd District.
Jason Nemus, representative for 33rd District, Jefferson, Oldham, Shelby counties.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, today we come to present before you today House Bill 313 that deals with an issue that has arisen within our Commonwealth over the last couple of years, dealing with bail projects that prior to were basically non-existent. We did take up this issue during the interim in our Government Oversight Investigative Committee and saw that there was a need to look in further and address this issue through some statutorial changes and guidelines. For those of you who are not aware of what they do, there are organizations, some nonprofit, some for-profit organizations, and they go in and they post bail for individuals within the system that may not have the means to be able to post their own bail. And in and on the face of it, it sounds like a very good thing. However, this entire issue came to really be highlighted this past week in Jefferson County. As most of us know, we had a mayoral candidate that there was an attempted assassination attempt upon his life. The individual was arrested and charged on a Monday, and one of these bail project groups posted a $100,000 bail and bailed this individual out on a Wednesday. Basically, what they did was circumvented judicial discretion of the judge to place a higher bond for the protection of the public. That's what the judge's discretion is for. And we've also found that in some circumstances, some of these individuals that have been bailed out by some of these groups have went on to commit not only further crimes, but be responsible for the deaths of individuals within the community, oftentimes in the commission of another crime. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, and he can explain what this bill will do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start off by saying a fundamental. Representative Blanton and I believe in bail. We think bail is right for the overwhelming majority of our people. We support bail. We want people to get back to their families, and we want people to get back to their jobs. Bail is good. In crafting this bill, we have spoken with prosecutors, public defenders, judges, attorneys, citizens, victims. We've even spoken with the Bail Project a number of times. And I think it's one of its founders will be testifying today, and she is a very good lady who is trying to do the right thing, and we support much of her effort. We support bail. But with bail, we have bail because we have to have a protection of the public. You are not charged and then released all the time. That is not, even though people say you're innocent until proven guilty, and you are, but our system, no system in the United States, including the federal system, releases everyone as soon as they get booked. That does not comport with public protection. We did have this bill last summer. We filed this bill the second week of session. So last week's incident in Louisville highlights the need for it, as Representative Blanton said, but it is not the catalyst to bringing this bill. So what do we do? How do we determine the rules, what the rules ought to be when you set the rules for bail? We have to have human judgment into the equation. Human judgment, Representative Elliott, is so important because we know people. There are people in my life, there are people in your life, Representative Maddox, that you'd probably bail out. There's probably people in your life that you wouldn't bail out because you bring the human judgment, the knowledge of the individual. Will they be a danger to themselves? Will they be a danger to the community? Will they be a flight risk? That human judgment is not in the question when we're talking about a corporation, an entity. It's not there. Our Commonwealth has recognized this and has been lauded throughout the country when we got rid of bail bondsmen in the 70s. And one of the main reasons we got rid of bail bondsmen is because it didn't have that human judgment that's tethered to the public safety, that's tethered to the knowledge of the flight risk and the danger of that individual. So we got rid of bail bondsmen. This is the next step in protecting our public. So what are we trying to do? We're not trying to outlaw these entities. We're trying to say that they can't bail people out for serious offenses. That's it. We want to increase the number of smaller criminals, defendants, I should say, that are bailed out by individuals and entities. This bill doesn't cover that. And so we've said, now I'm getting into explaining the bill, we've said that no entity, it has to be a human being, no entity can bail out someone for a serious crime. Where do we put that line? We put it at $5,000. The reason we put it at $5,000 is because we reached out to circuit judges. We asked them to have a communication among themselves and get back to us on what they thought that line ought to be. And what they said was $5,000. They also had two other recommendations. They said under no circumstances should an entity be able to bail out someone that is charged with a domestic violence offense. Why? Representative Banta, because we know in domestic violence situations, there's an extra concern and a timeliness concern of the volatility of the defendant. This is someone who intended to do what they were doing. They know the victim. They're angry perhaps at the victim, and they're more likely to finish the job, so to speak. So we've said domestic violence is out. An entity cannot release someone or post bail for someone with domestic violence. We've also said that, Representative Moser, on a bill that you worked on for a long time, if you're in on Casey's Law, because there's already been a determination that that person is a danger, especially to themselves, but also to the community. So no entity, no matter what the bail set at, can bail someone out for a domestic violence situation or Casey's Law. The entities cannot do it themselves, and they cannot do it through a third party. They cannot bail someone out through a third party. They also have annual reporting to the legislature and to the public, so the public can know who they're bailing out, who their donors are, where their expenditures are going. If you're going to engage in this activity in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, it ought to be open to the public for inspection. Finally, and I think this is an interesting addition that I've spoken with a number of legislators on this committee about, and it came from your ideas, is that the bail that is posted by one of these entities, if someone that they bail out reoffends, Representative Bradsher, the money then is forfeited to the new victim. Does that make that victim whole? No, it does not. It does not make the family whole that we're about to talk about. But it's something, and it's especially something when there's a property crime, not when there's a tragedy that we're about to hear about. So if someone reoffends, the bond that's posted is forfeited to the new victim. So that's the bill in a nutshell. Mr. Chairman, if we might, I'd like to call on Lois Windhorst and others, and I'm going to let her introduce them, and they can tell their particular situation and highlight the need for this bill, and then we'll come back to the table for any questions, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
That is okay.
Thank you,
And we
Mr.
do have a number of people signed up, so we will proceed through that as much as time will allow.
Hello, I'm going to be fast. My name is Lois Windhorst. I have been working with victims since 1981. I'm the founder of Mothers Against Drunk Driving here in Kentucky. There are two different bond projects, bail bond projects operating in Kentucky right now. One is of course, the National Bail Project. We have a local chapter in Louisville. I think it operates in about 19 counties. They can answer that better. The other one is the Louisville Bail Fund. I know that the gentleman, the representatives, just spoke about the max for bails at $5,000. Because in Jefferson County, our Commonwealth Attorney, Tom Wine, waives all cases to district court, he hear them, our circuit court judges do not have the availability to set a bond. This is done at arraignment in district court. And I have to tell you, unfortunately, pretrial, they don't give them all the information. You're going to hear about a case, a man whose record started in 2012 in Ohio. It continued. He moved into Kentucky, 3 arrests. His third arrest, he was arrested on stealing a car, had a gun, and during the arrest, second-degree assault on a police officer. It took 3 people to arrest this man. He was bailed out. $5,000. The judge questioned. He looks like he's escalating. Yes, he is. They didn't have the NIC records available that told about Ohio. Yet a reporter in our community with a phone call was able to get his convictions. He was a convicted felon. It was the same old story over and over, driving impaired. By the way, he wasn't charged with driving impaired on that arrest because he was outside of the car. He never, a lot of the cases did not show up to court. And yet, a bail, what are they called? Bail, anyway, the person that does the bail, they didn't have the records. I was also told that they will call a family member or talk to someone in the community. I asked if they did. To my knowledge, they couldn't give me the name of who they contacted to take this man. They recommended he go to treatment. He left the jail. He never showed up at treatment. He went right back doing the same things he did before he was arrested in February. March the 2nd, I get a call. 6:30 in the morning, my phone starts ringing. It's people calling me to tell me there had been a horrible crash on Dixie, which I was aware of. And when I see a horrible crash, I always pray that it's an accident. It's not a crash involving impaired driving. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call from a reporter telling me that this person had been in custody, but the bail project had released him. I'm like, what? I knew they worked with the protesters, things like that. That was my knowledge. Well, my research kicked in. I found out that the National Bail Project, I found the death of a woman in St. Louis after they posted the $5,000 bond. Her husband, who was her abuser, left the jail. She didn't know he was out, went straight to the house, beat her. 5 days later, she died. Since September, in Indianapolis, 2 victims of domestic abuse have been killed by their offenders, which were released by the Bail Project. Mind you, Indiana still has bail bondsmen. I was shocked, I was dismayed, and more importantly, on Tuesday night when I found out about this, I attended a vigil at Butler High School in honor of this beautiful young lady. The other bail fund, the Community Bail Fund, Louisville Community Bail Fund, it is just totally inexcusable the things that they are doing in the Louisville community. I'm just going to give you a few instances. In 2020, they bailed out more than 73 people in our community. They spent more than $2 million in Louisville bailing out dozens of people from Louisville's jails. Out of the 73 bailed out during a several-week period ending August the 3rd of 2020, 37 of those people were charged with violent crimes, including rape, domestic violence, wanton endangerment, and murder. Some of you all during the interim heard the testimony from Mrs. Mack, whose brother, Terrence Shekel, was shot in the back of the head. It's on video. A judge in circuit court, once she was indicted for murder, put a bail of $50,000. The Louisville Community Bail Fund bailed her out, $50,000 cash. There was another woman who was the victim of domestic violence. Her offender raped her, beat her to the point, lacerated liver, that she spent days in the hospital. They put up his bail, $25,000 cash. And then, of course, we have our candidate for mayor, who is so lucky. A week ago Monday was shot at, and within 48 hours, his bail money had been put up. There has to be some processes and procedures. I don't want to see the bail projects eliminated, but I want to see guidelines for our communities. What happens to the bail money? I mean, you can't find these records. The national arm of the bail project, they keep very good records. But where does that bail money go when somebody's followed the steps? Does it go back in to the fund for more bails? Or where does it go? These are things that needs to be looked at if we're going to have this operating in Kentucky. I'm asking you all today, I think $3,000 is a good spot, not $5,000, because the victims that were made March the 1st, the couple out in Jefferson County, that they were held with a gun and said, "Get out of here," and took the truck. The truck that committed the crime later that evening on Dixie, and he still tried to get away. Stolen guns in the back of the truck. Took 4 people there to hold him down to the
Stop
police.
denying that Black Lives and Black History Matters only
2 new
website.
victims because
And let me
somebody
just see if
posted
I can
his
pull up a
bail
couple of
money for
things.
$5,000. Somebody that didn't have skin in the game.
All History Matters when Black History Matters. T-shirts, yard signs, buttons, activity kits,
At this time,
all available to order on
I appreciate you
allhistorymatters.com
all
website.
listening, and I want to introduce
And let
to
me
you
just see if
3
I can
very, very
pull up a couple
important
of
people.
signs,
in our
buttons,
community.
activity kits,
This bill is
all available
called
to order on
Madeline's
allhistorymatters.com website.
And her mother Marcy,
And let me just
her
see
father
if I
Jeremy,
can.
and her
pull
brother
up-
Peyton. Marcy, go ahead.
Thank you for listening. March 1st, 2021, a day that changed our family forever. It was on that day that our daughter Madeline, a 17-year-old senior varsity cheerleader at Butler Traditional High School, was tragically taken from us. While the evening of March 1st, 2021 seemed like a blur and is still a horrible nightmare I cannot wake up from, the details are fresh and vivid in the memory as they were on that night. Madeline had just finished her varsity cheerleading practice at Butler and was taking her brother, my son, Peyton, to work from baseball practice, as he is a student at Butler as well. After she dropped Peyton off at Chick-fil-A for his part-time shift, Madeline began her usual route home from practice on Dixie Highway. It was not 5 minutes later, after her brother was dropped off, that my daughter would be hit head-on by a wrong-way speeding stolen truck. The driver of that truck refused to render aid and tried to flee the scene, but was wrestled down by several individuals who just so happened to be walking in the area at the time. Soon after, we found out that the truck had been stolen and that this man was under the influence of alcohol and several substances. This man and his ridiculous decisions took everything from me and my family. Madeline was a daughter, our daughter, a sister to 2 brothers that she adored, a granddaughter, a niece, a cousin, a girlfriend, and a friend to so many. Words to describe Madeline include happy, loving, and kind. She had a very bright future ahead of her. and was so excited for the next season of life. Madeline enjoyed helping people and being a helping hand to anyone that needed it. My girl kept a very busy academic and extracurricular schedule and also found time to build a community with some local South End friends at our local Chick-fil-A. She had plans to attend Bellarmine University in the fall of 2021, and as a high school senior, Madeline was already working with an internship at Norton Women's and Children's Hospital. There's no doubt that her calling in life was helping others in their time of hurt and crisis. Madeline's smile always lit up in whatever room that she was in. A year after her passing, I am reminded of just how much joy and happiness that smile and positive energy brought to those she knew and loved. Whether it was the most important individual in the room or the individual that very few talked to. My Madeline was a friend to all. 1 week away from the 1-year anniversary of my daughter's passing, Madeline is the light in our lives. And while there are many days in which I feel like throwing my hands up, she is the bright light that lights the path in such a dark and bitter world. Nonetheless, I am here in this dark and bitter world with a mission and a purpose. I am here today to fight on behalf of Madeline, for the hearts of my family, and for families across the state of Kentucky. You see, this tragedy could have been avoided. The driver of the stolen truck, whose name does not deserve to be said aloud, was arrested on February 27th, less than 48 hours before this wreck, for stealing a vehicle and several different drugs. Nonetheless, this criminal and liability to society was released as he was bailed out by the Louisville Bail Project with no money out of his own pocket and no accountability. This man has a file that was multiple pages long. No background information or check was placed on this man, nor were the programs set up or enforced to ensure that he would not go back out and repeat his decisions, which he did. The reason that my daughter is not here is at the hands of the Louisville Bail Project and its supporters. The reason that my husband will not have his daughter to walk down the aisle is at the hands of the Louisville Bail Project and its supporters. The reason of the constant struggle and heartache of my 2 boys when they think about their sister is at the hands of the Louisville Bail Project and its supporters. The reason for my long days where it is all I can do to move and sleepless nights is at the hands of the Louisville Bail Project. At the end of the day, it is not the Louisville Bail Project whose lives are drastically changed and altered because of the decisions of a criminal. It is ordinary families such as mine. While bail groups pay for those who have done a crime, it is people like myself that will have to pay for a lifetime. My family and I are here today in support of House Bill 313 in hopes of stopping organizations like these from releasing criminals back into the public with no supervision or accountability. Our family, this community, and our state will forever be denied all of the good that Madeline would have brought. She was a good girl. She had so many dreams to look forward to, and she was taken because someone that shouldn't have been out on the road was out on the road that night, and it's just not fair. So I thank you for hearing us out today.
And this is Peyton, Madeline's brother.
Madeline Trout is my sister and was my best friend. She was the person I could talk to when I needed someone and was there to set me straight, even when I didn't necessarily ask for it. She was the light in my world. I could never have imagined a life without her, and yet here I am, learning to live with life without her. My big sister and her beautiful life was taken from me and my family due to a local bail group, and let's call the man for what he is, a felon and a criminal, who was let out of jail literally for free. The evening of March 1st was an event that will forever impact my life. Now all I have are memories. I would never forget the times that she would make me laugh when I needed it. The late night car rides when we talked about our day. The times when we would work together at Chick-fil-A. But I will now have to live the rest of my life knowing that those memories are all I have, as she is no longer here. On March 1st, 2021, this day changed mine and my family's life drastically. The decision of the Bail Project letting a felon out of custody with no supervision has changed the phrase normal life in my life. My family and I will never be the same after the passing of my sister. My family, the community we live in, and our state will never get to see the love and light I knew her to be. And that will forever be our loss as a family, community, and state. Thank you.
Just thank you for hearing it out.
All right, we do have several folks that have signed up to speak, and we'll monitor that carefully. We do have some time. First on our sign-in sheet, we have Carrie Cole from the Bail Project. Just make sure that your green light is on. We're trying to remind people of that, so.
Good morning, Chairman Massey and members of the committee. My name is Carrie Cole, and I'm the operations manager of the Louisville site of the Bail Project. I grew up in Louisville and work here. I'm a social worker by training, and I deeply understand the social challenges that your constituents face. I was one of the first employees for our Louisville site, and our current team in Louisville are your constituents, living and engaging with their respective Kentucky communities. We are just as invested as you are in making sure that Kentucky is a safe place where all of its residents can thrive. The Bail Project is a national nonprofit with the mission to end cash bail. Since 2018, we have provided free bail assistance to nearly 4,000 Kentuckians in 28 counties statewide. In addition to posting bail, we provide court reminders, travel assistance, and connections to social services like temporary housing, employment assistance, and behavioral health services. Our clients have returned to over 90% of their court dates. The Bail Project is a sunset organization, and our goal is to put ourselves out of business. We want to end the use of cash bail so that our revolving bail fund is not necessary in Kentucky. We are opposed to House Bill 313 because it would limit the number of poor Kentuckians charitable bail organizations can serve by restricting the amount of bail to $5,000 or less, which means that a poor person presumed innocent for a low-level misdemeanor, for example, will remain in jail if their bail is set above that amount. Meanwhile, wealthy people charged with more serious offenses and high bail amounts will be able to buy their freedom. This does not protect public safety. Additionally, House Bill 313 will prohibit charitable bail organizations from posting bail from anyone charged with domestic or dating violence or anyone under civil court order for involuntary treatment for substance use disorder. Not only does this prohibition undercut the fundamental right to be presumed innocent, regardless of the charge, but once a judge determines what price it must be to be paid for a person to be released from jail, it doesn't matter who posts the bond, a relative, church, or a community bail fund. Our U.S. currency is the same as a grandmother's. Further destroying the presumption of innocence is the shocking requirement that charitable bail organizations forfeit bail money to an alleged victim if an accused person out on bond is accused of the commission of a new crime. An accusation or an arrest does not equal a conviction. Finally, House Bill 313 sets a reporting requirement for a charitable bail organization that it does not also impose on other individuals and groups who post bail. House Bill 313 also requires charitable bail organizations to share information about its donors, which is unfair and illegal, as determined by the U.S. Supreme Court and Americans for Prosperity versus Bonta in 2020. 501c3 organizations are already regulated by the state and federal government. This provision is against the spirit of charitable giving and can inadvertently disincentivize would-be donors from providing funding to this critical cause or any other important cause, as this bill would open the door to an unprecedented practice. This bill does not ensure public safety by limiting our services. In fact, it does the opposite, by ensuring more Kentuckians will be subject to the harms that come from remaining in jail before their trial. It also ensures that taxpayers will continue to foot the bill to maintain Kentucky's overcrowded jails. We are all aware of the increased urgency that lawmakers are feeling to address elevated crime levels. We feel that urgency too, but we must be careful not to legislate from the fringes. The stories that have been in the news, the ones that target charitable bail organizations, overemphasize tragedy and focus on rare tragic cases. This does not mean that these events, when they occur, are no less heartbreaking, but they are rare. The urgency of our concerns must be focused on the elimination of cash bail and the reform of the pretrial system altogether, something the Bail Project is experienced in. as we have been developing a model of robust pretrial services and supports that can be adopted across this country. The Bail Project's intervention is designed to enhance the public safety of the communities in which we operate, not undermine it. And we are doing that. We have the experience and we have the evidence. We know what works, and we urge you to work with us instead of against us to fix this problem. Do not eliminate or restrict our ability to operate. Partner with us. I want to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no questions of this witness, we will have Shameka. Is it Shameka? And I'm not going to try to stab your last name. What's your last name? Parrish Wright. Okay. Are you ready, ma'am? Yes. You may come up and proceed. Be brief, please. As brief as you can.
People always tell me that for some reason, huh?
I get the same thing, so it's good.
I wrote a statement because of that. Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to thank you, Chairman Massey, and all of the members of the committee. My name is Shameka Parrish Wright, and I am testifying before you today for my personal capacity. I have lived and worked in Kentucky for more than 20 years. I am a constituent. I am a Louisville resident. This is my home. This issue of bail is close to my heart because I have suffered from it personally. When I was 18 years old, I was getting ready to start college. I got engaged, and I had a young daughter. One night, things went all wrong. My ex-fiance fought me, put his hands on me while I was trying to clean. I thought that I was going to lose my life. I fought back. He did not like this. He smacked the drink out of my hand and just kept yelling at me. And so this argument turned into a physical fight that I never expected. I began to move around and try to escape, and I couldn't. I tried to defend myself the best way I could. One of our neighbors, called the police. When the police came, I told them everything that had happened. I had never been arrested. I did not realize that I was signing my own warrant as I wrote down what happened. I was handcuffed and taken to jail. I spent 2 days in jail before ever seeing a judge. Little did I know my ordeal was just starting. My ex-fiance, on the other hand, was charged with domestic violence. He was able to quickly secure his release. He never spent the night in jail. I didn't have those kind of resources. Even when he came to court to defend me and explained that he had started the altercation, the judge did not care and set my bail at $10,000. I didn't have the money, neither did any of my loved ones. I was charged with a felony and was told that I was facing prison if I went to trial and lost. I didn't know what to do. I had a younger daughter at home and my college education ahead of me. I saw my life falling apart before my eyes. Like so many do in that situation, I weighed my options. Do I plead guilty for a lesser offense and go home to my daughter and start college on time? Or do I hold on to my innocence and sit in jail until I have a trial? After spending 38 days in jail, I pled guilty to a lesser charge. All I wanted was to get out and see my daughter. I wanted to be home. I knew this plea would give me a criminal record that will follow me for the rest of my life. But at that moment, I felt I had no other choice. And that's the choice countless people make in Kentucky every single day because of the cash bail system. If I had money to pay my bail, or if there was a charitable bail organization available to support me, I could have gone home, worked with a lawyer to fight my case. I could have avoided conviction. I would not have had a criminal record, but because I was poor, I did not get my due process. The presumption of innocence only existed on paper. It's been 25 years since that night when I thought my young life would come to a premature end. House Bill 313 is not the solution. In fact, it's a distraction from the very real issues we face in our state, the impact on public safety, issues of drug addiction ravaging our communities, mental illness, poverty, homelessness, and the list goes on. Doubling down on the cash bail system by targeting charitable bail organizations is a misguided attempt to respond to political pressure that will increase your jail costs as a result and kicking the can down the road instead of taking on these public health crises head on. One of your colleagues last year was indicted on alleged charges of strangulating his wife, received a $25,000 bail, and was out within an hour. Right now, as we meet here, Officer Hankinson, former Officer Hankinson, is on trial for shooting through the neighbor's walls of Breonna Taylor, $15,000 bond, and was out within an hour. Eliminating cash bail should not be an issue of blue or red, Democrat or Republican. It's an issue of what's wrong and what's right. And putting a price tag on a presumption of innocence is simply wrong. Restricting charitable bail organizations is irrational. It is the equivalent of limiting food banks when the real problem is poverty and hunger. I respectfully ask you not to react to recent media reports with a heavy hand and instead take a thoughtful approach to our shared concerns. The vast majority of people out on bail go to work, school, return home to their families without incident. Their success stories like mine do not make it on the news. I was lucky in my life. Many people would not have that same experience. Incarceration is traumatizing. It forces people to make decisions they would not otherwise make to protect their physical bodies and their minds. To protect their families, if you enact this legislation, you would separate single mothers from their children. You would drive those separated children into trauma and foster care. You'll force employment instability and housing insecurity. You'll increase the likelihood that people will not be able to escape the grip of a criminal legal system involvement. Academic research bears all of this out. And I know from my own experience and my experience speaking with hundreds of directly impacted people that this is true. Don't pass this bill. Instead, I encourage the committee to take the time to collect and analyze the data to learn more about our criminal legal system. It's clear that people don't understand what a revolving bail fund is. It's clear that people don't understand how bail works. It's clear that people don't understand that there's pretrial incarceration and then there's bail that is a condition of release. You know, we need really complete information that deals with the complete fiscal and racial impact statements before passing legislation that will not effectively solve the complex issues facing our communities. Vote no on House Bill 313. Thank you. And as a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 3, I am sorry that happened. I've never met you. I don't live far from Butler. My daughter worked at Chick-fil-A too. This hits me home. But if it was even in my children, I would be standing on our work. I'm glad that there's some form of justice happening as Mr. DeWitt is facing trial, but do know that I don't take this lightly. And Lois, we talked about that. Thank you.
All right, we have 2 more people signed up, and I'm going to get you out of here by 1:45, so we're going to continue to proceed. Since we've already heard from one person from the Bail Project, I'll call them last. I'm going to hear from Chanel Helm. Sorry, I'm reading off the best I can. And please come forward, ma'am, and identify yourself, and you may proceed.
Thank you so much. Before I even get started, I do want to say that even though we didn't bail them out, it has nothing to do with that. Nobody should ever lose somebody in their family. You're absolutely correct. But you will understand what the Louisville Community Bail Fund does. And that's what I want to lead with. We were never contacted about this bill, nor our work from anyone who has put this bill together. So, is it? Yes, it's green. Look closer. It moves. This. Oh, okay. It was kind of heavy. Thank you so much. So I am a bit confused as to why there's an over-resounding notion that those things did happen. Community bail funds have been around for decades. They did not just erupt all of a sudden, and there are not just 2 types of bail funds that are in Kentucky operating right now. There are 3 others that also take care of specific crimes and how they happen. Community bail funds do not only bail people out, we also bail out the community. So there are very much injustices that we talk about that not only deal with the criminal justice system, they also deal with why people create crime in the first place. And as a West End Louisville resident, a historic West End Louisville resident, I can still state to you that there are other things that we have bailed out in our community besides people. I just want to name those things because nobody has asked us about those and you are assuming too much. We have created a grocery store because we live in a food apartheid where fresh foods are not available to over 60,000 people in the West End of Louisville. We bought an abandoned church so that we could create what the community asked for, and they've created and wanted an art gallery, a kitchen that works. We feed over 2,500 people a week, and we make sure children have a safe place to come study. We've also bought an emergency housing house because people do not have housing in a housing crisis in the west end of Louisville, blighted neighborhoods, and we house them. We don't send them through red tape, we house them. So, yes, I do agree that this bill is ill-purposed because the information in the bill is already public. There's no need to report to you all because the reporting is already done when you bail somebody out. The courts have a list of people who bail people out, regardless if they are us or they are somebody who isn't us. And that is made to you upon request, and you can do that. What the Community Bail Fund does, though, is build support systems for those folks who are not able to have support. There are people who have way harsher crimes, and those folks need things. Some folks involve drugs, some folks involve violence, and if we are able to create that support plan with them, with licensed professional social workers, with licensed professional therapists, with licensed professional lawyers, who we detail their crime with, which we do, we build that out. If we can't do that, then we don't bail them out. All of that could have been asked, and it could have been ready and prepared for before we got here. And to speak about the crime last week that took place, there are rumors that are going around about who Quintez Brown is, but we don't need to question who he is because he wrote who he is and why he exists and what is happening to him. That changed last week. An entire community, a group of people who love him very much dearly, are really wondering what is happening, and we're there because we're wondering what's going on. The conditions for his bail were set by a judge, not the Community Bail Fund, not the Bail Project, not the Freedom Project, not the Immigrant Bail Fund. They were set by a judge, and they are being completed by that judge. If there's an issue with bail, then you take it up with the judge, but I'm also concerned. I'm also concerned at how murderers can have lower bail than people who have drug offenses or people who are not violent. That's the question at hand right now. How is somebody who has already committed several crimes have $5,000 bail over somebody who's not committed any type of crime whatsoever? And why isn't the courts issuing the support that is being requested by the legal defense? I'm not saying that this always correctly, but we work too hard to do that. What has happened to us since 2020 is tons of assaults on the people who work here, data analysts, social workers, community organizers. We are mothers, we are residents. We have been stalked. We have been chastised. We have been, this is almost sabotage in itself. Nobody has contacted us at all, and I don't think that's fair to say and put that on record. And I'm down to speak to anybody who would like to and work on an actual bill that talks about the things that you are trying to address. I do want to read something else before I leave, because there's another issue at hand that we're talking about, and too many folks are not making enough noise about what is happening in Louisville Metro Department of Corrections right now. On November 29, 2021, Kenneth Hall was found unresponsive. On December 3rd, 2021, Rakita Smith was found unresponsive. On December 4th, 2021, Stephanie Dunbar, another woman, was found by suicide. On January 2nd, 2022, Gary Withall was found by suicide. On January 9th, 2022, Keith Smith was found unresponsive on the medical floor. And February 6th, a week before Quintez Brown committed his crime, Leslie Starnes was found hung by himself, right? People are dying in LMDC, and nobody is calling attention to what is happening at LMDC. And we are worried about the wrong things. I'm not off topic because that's part of the reason the Louisville Community Bail Fund exists. We call out the injustices that are taking place and find those solutions. This is not a solution for what is happening in our community or what is happening inside the jail right now or what the folks need who are committing criminal crimes. I'm not off topic. We're talking about why the Louisville Community Bail Fund exists. Nobody asked us why and what we do, and I gave that to you. So now you know. But I expect to be treated with respect, and that's by everybody in this room.
Mr. Chairman, if we could have just a couple seconds to close. Okay. Of course, yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Hello, my name is Alicia Richardson. Members of the committee, thank you for Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share my experience with you today. My name is Alicia Richardson. I'm a 34-year-old business owner, proud mother of three children, and I lived and worked in Louisville for nearly 20 years, but I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. In 2019, I had one of the worst experiences I've ever had. One night after a long day at work, I was hanging out with some friends and having a drink. Then a dear friend of mine called me in a frantic state. She was in a situation of domestic violence and she desperately needed my help. She was in panic and asked me to please come and get her. So I got in my car. In hindsight, I should have never gotten into the car, but right there and then I didn't know what else to do. As I was driving, I realized I wasn't feeling well, so I pulled over into a gas station. Then by accident, I ran into a gas pump. The police came and I was immediately arrested. Um, I don't even want to talk about the experience when I was locked up. I was taken to a jail and held on a bail that I could not afford. I didn't know what to do. Like many people in our community, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I had just graduated the Louisville Urban League Kentucky KY Bills program. I didn't have an emergency savings or anything like that. I was worried about my kids and my mother, who had recently suffered from 2 aneurysms on the same day, and they all depended on me. Jail is a scary place. I didn't wish this experience on anyone. I was there for 2 days. Don't get me wrong. I believe in the justice process. I believe in taking responsibility, but you just don't put a person in jail before they get their day in court. You don't say someone is presumed innocent and then set bail. You know they can't pay. Fortunately, the Bail Project learned about my case and they provided me with bail assistance. I was grateful that I could go home to my children and help take care of my mom. To this day, my case is still pending. That means I could still be sitting in jail almost 3 years later. If it wasn't for the Bail Project, I would be sitting in jail, especially during COVID. You know, a lot of cases just wasn't being seen, or I don't know what was going on. Waiting for a resolution. Since my release, I have started my own construction company, and I am successful with that. I'm in the Russell Business Tech Incubator, and I just got accepted to the UFK Business Accelerator, Minority Accelerator, and I am doing well, providing for my family while attending court as required to fight my case and take responsibility. Because I was drinking that night, my judge also asked me to participate in a program in reference to, gaining sobriety. So I'm also a client of Ladies of Promise, and they have been making sure, just as well as the Bail Project, that I make it to every court date as well. I've attended every court date as asked to with the help of the court reminders and transportation from the Bail Project, and I'm thankful for the work that they do. The justice system should not treat people differently based on how much money they have. We all have a right to a due process, a right to get our day in court, a right to be presumed innocent, and this should not depend on the size of your bank account. We need to fix the cash bail system. Until then, charities like the Bail Project are needed. They level the playing field for folks like me. This bill will hurt people living in poverty as it is. Nearly half of the people in jails in Kentucky they're awaiting their court dates because they can't afford bail. I ask you to please vote no on this bill. I also would like to say, I would like to give your family my condolence. We lost a family member on 26th and Broadway due to somebody who served out of jail for a crime similar to what he did. And then he ran my cousin over, and it took forever for the police to find him. But we did end up getting justice. So I would like to say, I don't necessarily think that it's people getting bailed out by the Bail Project, and that's why they're repeating their offenses. People have the choice to get out of jail and do something different, like I am. And if they choose not to, that they should, the judge should give them more time or something, a higher bail. But I don't think the Bail Project should be canceled just because the people that's being released are making bad choices, because there's more people that's making good choices than bad. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And we're going to give the sponsors the last word. I will say I do apologize for the last moment, in the sense that It took some time, and we are not going to allow disruptive witnesses in this arena. It's just not going to be permitted. We are here for civil discourse, and we'll do it with professionalism, or we won't do it at all. With that, sponsors, you may address the committee.
I want to thank you. There's a lot of comments that were made today about the jail in Louisville. We've had 6 deaths in a couple months. That's serious issues, and I want to work with anybody on that. Representative Bratcher and I and others have contacted the corrections officers there, and we're looking to see what we can do. I want to work with anybody on that. There's serious problems on there. Wanted to say that quickly. This bill is not a panacea. It does not fix all problems. There's no doubt about that. But we are charged with protecting public safety. Our people and our Constitution unfortunately requires judges to set money bail for anybody except for those who've been charged with a capital offense. Representative Blanton and I are working on something because we don't like that. We're working on a bill that is being drafted now. It's in the drafting stages to amend our Constitution to allow our judges to follow most other states and the federal government and not setting a bail for people who are a danger to the community. There will be a hearing like there is in federal court, Mr. Chairman, as you know, and the counsel on both sides and the prosecutor have an opportunity to make the case that there should not be a bail set. This young man probably shouldn't have had a bail set. Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there wasn't a hearing. But the point is, we shouldn't have to have bail for very dangerous people. Representative Blanton and I are looking to change that. However, the people of Kentucky in our Constitution require bail to be set. And when there's bail to be set, we cannot allow an entity to make a mockery of it. We cannot allow an entity to make a mockery of it. If we're going to have cash bail, and I don't necessarily like that, but that's the law by our Constitution, then we have to have cash bail. If a judge set $100,000 for a man who tries to assassinate someone, that is not enough. That's not appropriate for an entity to come in and bail them out. It's also, in my view, not appropriate for a rich man to bail himself out. That's why Representative Blanton and I are trying to fix that. But we can't fix that with the bill. It has to be a constitutional amendment. House Bill 313 is a step forward in improving the bail system, and I think it is necessary. It's highlighted by last week's incident, but even if last week's incident didn't occur, this is necessary. We filed it before then. We had hearings on it last summer. Mr. Chairman, I know that Representative Blanton wants to close, but the father wants to take 10 seconds if he could.
And you better make it 5, but let's go.
I just wanted to say, you heard their stories about these people that needed to get bailed out because they were doing first-time offenses and stuff. But what about the guy that killed my daughter? It wasn't. It was multiple, over years and years. They did no background check. They did no accountability. They bailed him out, and he killed my daughter the very next day. See, you hear about single. We're not trying to eliminate them, but, you're hearing about the single offenses, but what about the multiple offenses that they're getting those people out? They've proved they weren't going to change.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
All right, we have a motion on the bill and a second. I am going to give just a brief moment if any of our members have questions. Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Banta,
Yes.
Representative Blanton,
Aye.
Representative Bratcher,
Yes, and I'd just like to say, Mr. and Ms. Trout, I have many families at that Greenwood and Dixie intersection. I grew up in PRP, and I just can't imagine what you're going through, and thank you for your brave testimony today. I vote absolutely yes.
Representative Cantrell, Representative Decker,
Yes.
Representative Elliott, Representative Fisher,
Yes.
Representative Hebron,
Yes.
Representative Cole Carney.
Briefly explain, Mr. Chair. I'm going to pass today. I fully believe the sponsors and their intent in improving our public safety. I want to thank Madeline's family for coming and sharing their story with us, and I'm very, very deeply sorry for your loss. I do have significant due process concerns with this bill that I will discuss with the sponsors, and I'm glad to see and hear that you are working on a bill that I think addresses the actual issue that we need to figure out in this state, which is bail being set, how it's done, and conditions of release. So I passed today, but I hope to work with you in the future to fix that.
Representative Lewis,
Yes.
Representative Maddox,
Yes.
Representative McCoy,
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
First of all, I want to say to the family, thank you all for coming. As a dad, my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine. I think it's literally, it'll make me tear up thinking about it, but thank you for coming. To the sponsors, you guys, I know you both to be men of integrity. I know you're trying to do the right thing. We heard a lot of testimony today about the broken bail system, and it's broken. And unfortunately, though, guys, I don't think this bill fixes it. I think, bad facts make bad law. And I think this is a reaction to some bad facts, but I'm going to be a no. But I'd love to work on it, on the issue, to see if we can't fix what is clearly a broken thing for our state.
Representative Minter. Briefly explain my vote.
Briefly.
Today it's a pass, but I want to express to Madeline's family my deepest sympathies, and I cannot imagine what you're going through. I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward and for the thoughtful discussion. I'm very happy to hear that you're working on that constitutional amendment. It is much needed. I look forward to seeing that. But I also share some concerns raised by Representatives Kulkarni and McCoy. So today I'm a pass, and I look forward to speaking with you more about it.
Representative Mosier,
Yes.
Representative Nemus,
Yes.
Representative Petrie, Representative Scott.
Chairman, I just want to say to the family, my daughter was a varsity cheerleader at Butler in 2019. We pushed the GoFundMe for your family when Madeline was murdered. So I want you to know that my heart is with you. But I also know this is not the bill, but we need work to be done to address the issues that you are bringing up. So today I want you to know I'm a pass, but I want to see the work done on this bill.
Representative Stevenson,
Again, I express deep sorrows. And this is a failure of the system. And I can't put people that are not a threat in the system that we have because they can't afford bail. So it's broke. It's broke. But making it work on the backs of poor people doesn't work. Let's fix the system.
Chairman Massey.
Yes. I am going to ask Representative Mosier if she would like to record a yes vote or a vote. Sorry, I wasn't trying to lead you. Would you like to record a vote on House Bill 488? A yes vote. All right. And Representative Elliott, did you vote on 488? That was the DVO enhancement bill.
I'll record an aye vote.
Okay, thank you. With that, members, please stay tuned to your text because I will send you information out about upcoming bills that'll be heard, and I will get those out to you as quickly as I know. I do know we'll have 402 on the agenda next week, which is fertility fraud. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.